Hi, I am Dr. Karen Hills Pruden, and look, this is another Sister Leaders podcast, and I have another powerful sister leader for you. Look, she is no stranger to the Sister Leaders community, but I bet you don't know all there is to know about her. And so we're going to dig deep down into her business, find out what she's doing in this space called life. And so, Virginia Manning, if you can introduce yourself to the Sister Leaders podcast community.
Right. Good day, Sister Leaders Podcast community. My name is Virginia Manning. I am currently in a mental health practice. I've been licensed as a mental health therapist since 2011. I'm licensed in the state of Texas, Georgia, and also Michigan. And I love what I do. I love working in the mental health space. And so I'll just tell you all a little bit about how I get started, because that's what everybody's first question is, like, why did you choose to work in a mental health space? And mine's, and they always say your why should be personal, but I know for sure mine's is personal. So my why is why I'm a mental health therapist is because my mom had severe mental health issues. She had severe depression that she started showing symptoms. She may have had them before, but as a kid, we started noticing them after her mother passed away in December 1st, not December 1st, when her mother passed away. She passed away December 1st. So just just seeing those things, how she attempted, she had 3 attempts. The last one she completed, which is what I was saying, December 1st, 1994, she completed suicide. And so ever since then, I've been real passionate about following what God has been telling me about what I need to do. Because my first career was in education. And so education wasn't working out for me well. I resigned after I was a school counselor and couldn't get a position in school counseling. And so I was like 3 hours away from LPC, not even really connecting it to my mom or anything, but just, following the trends of what I could do, in my profession. So I went back to school, got my 3 other hours. Then, of course, you had to do your internship, right? And so that means I had to find a place that kind of worked with my schedule as a school teacher, and I couldn't. So guess what I did? I resigned from school teaching so I could pursue my hours as an LPC. So I found a job that would pay me and let me work my hours at the same time. I was in multiple jobs, in that transition. But that's how I started my career, is that I resigned from the school system twice, actually, because the first time I resigned, I was in Beaumont, Texas. Then I moved to Houston, Texas, because my daughter wanted to attend college in Houston. So I'm like, come on, let's pack up, let's go, my youngest daughter. So luckily, the job that I was at also had a site in Houston. So I transferred my job to Houston. And then I was working at that company, the same one I transferred to. And I'm like, I don't like the way they run stuff. I don't like first of all, I don't like working on holidays. Okay. When you working for somebody else and they open, you got to work on holidays. I wasn't feeling it. And so I'm like, okay. And I ain't like the way things were running and just some of their rules and the structure of it. So I'm like, I want my own practice. I want to be able to run stuff the way I feel is, not saying they wasn't, well, they was a little unethical, but, you know, just more ethical, more clients friendly, just more open, and more freedom too, as well. So I applied for a school position in HISD, Houston Independent School District, so I can have that flexibility of working, but being off on holidays, weekends, how the school district is. So I could work on my own business and building my own business. So I went to the school district in Houston. I worked there. I was a school teacher 1 year. Then I transitioned to a school counselor for like 2 or 3 years. My plan was, this is me and God's plan. I'm like, God, give me a position in the school district, and I only work 1 year, enough to build my business. Well, sister leaders, y'all know how it go. You get comfortable in the position. You don't have to interview. The benefits are good. The money is good. You get your breaks. And so you sit and you sit and you sit and you sit, knowing that's not where you're supposed to be. And that's what happened to me. But that's okay, because God said, I have something for you. He made it uncomfortable for me, right? Like things weren't going right. The administration was like just bothering me all the time for no reason. So I'm like, see, God, okay, I get it. I get it. I get it. I was supposed to stay here only 1 year, and I violated what you told me to do. So now you're trying to make it uncomfortable for me. I got to go. Still didn't go. They pushed me out. They closed my position. The grant that was paying my position, they closed it. So guess what? Well, they thought they was firing me, but they wouldn't. I got transferred to another school. I'm like, oh no, I want to be fired. I want to be fired. So, but I got transferred to another school. And so
Love that. I love that. I love that. So you said a couple of things here, so I want to jump in real quick. So you you had some struggles, some internal struggles going on in your life from where you thought God was leading you in terms of where you should be in terms of your own business, but you weren't ready to leave. And I think a lot of us have been in that situation where we don't listen. You don't listen, stay a little longer, and then it's like, okay, well, I still want you to leave, so I'm gonna make it uncomfortable for you. So I certainly think a lot of us can relate to that. And so, but I also hear you say that you made your educational job kind of work for you while you were building your own practice. And so let's talk about that, because I am a entrepreneur and an entrepreneur, and I have been that way for decades, and I continue to be that way because it's working for me. But we know that for some individuals, they may be in a situation where they have to choose one or the other. Tell me about how you were able to keep your eye on your goal or your own practice and know that this job is going to work. I'm going to benefit from this job, A, B, C, D, while I continue to build my business. How were you to keep your goals focused on entrepreneurship, even though you were still working for someone else? Because I think people think you have to do one or the other. And of course, you and I know that you can do it simultaneously, but you have to have a plan. Otherwise, you'll get caught up. But let's talk about that, because there's a lot of people who think that it's one or the other. What did you put in place for yourself? Systems, processes, structure to keep yourself focused that you were still in building phase for your own business?
well, like I said, the thing that kind of really like set it off of me going into my own business is that I didn't like how that current employment was, conducting the business of therapy. Right. And so that kind of like pushed me. And once again, it could have been God just, once again, pushing me to my set place. But from that point, I started planning. It took me some months before I got hired at Houston Independent School District. Like no lie, probably like, if not a year, somewhere up to a year, if not a year, before I even got hired at Houston Independent School District. So I was still, in the rough of, still planning the business while I'm working. But like I said, it wasn't that easy because I was working nights. It was this crazy schedule, working holidays or whatever. So I wasn't able to dedicate the time that I know I needed for research. You have to research. That's one of the keys. Research what you're trying to do. Research if it's an industry. Research, where you should be located. Where your people are at. Who are your people? The first phase is that research. And so while I was still working at this company, I was doing a little research, but then you have to go to that next stage of really doing the action. Because after you do all the research, then what you do with the research? You have to do action. So I did the research, and that's why I realized that I needed to resign. I could have continued working simultaneously, but I needed to resign because of the way everything that I needed was during work hours. Now, if I could have found a job, easily that, I could work nights, strictly nights, and not have this schedule that was, sometimes your day, sometimes your night, then your holiday. If I could have found a job that would work with my goals of being an entrepreneur, I probably would have worked a little longer. but I had to find a job that kind of afforded me the ability to make money and still work on my business.
Okay,
They always at the
I like that.
same time of the day.
Yep, and I think that's where many of us hit that crossroads where scheduling wise, things are just not working, where we need to
Right.
be certain places during the core hours of where we're supposed to be working for somebody else. So I've heard that story a number of times where you actually, and that's another way of being forced. When it's like, okay, I need to be here at 1 o'clock, but I'm supposed to be at work at 1 o'clock. And I can't leave work every day at 1 o'clock.
Right. Right.
So let's talk about mental health, because there is a lot of discussion about mental health. There is a lot of uh, stigma associated with mental health, um, addressing our mental health issues. And let's talk about mental health and the woman professional. So, um, how do you know that you probably should consult someone professionally, and it's not just periodic stress or something? How do you know that maybe you should talk to a professional? Are there any signs or anything that we should be on the lookout for that says, hey, I got to get out of my own head, stop talking to myself, and talk to a professional?
Right. So one thing for sure I want people to know, because one of the mottos of my business, Gym Man Consulting, is to overcome life's common challenges, because to help offset the stigma part, right? If you think it's common, then it'll help offset that stigma part of you thinking like it's so odd and it's unusual and people gonna think these certain things about me. But actually, a lot of some of the symptoms, and I'll say like low level symptoms, right? All of us have depression sometimes. We get sad when our paycheck wasn't what it was supposed to be, or we had too many bills. We get anxious going to work before a meeting where we have to present, or a test that we didn't pass, or we have to take a test. And so we get depressed or anxious. So all of us experience those symptoms, right? That's common. If you live in, I tell people all the time, if you live in, you're going to have some of that. If you don't, that means you're not living. You're under a rock, and that's a problem too if you're living under a rock. But if you live and you have goals, you work, you have family, kids, whatever, you're going to have some of those times. But when they're ongoing, persistent, they pretty much discombobulating an area of your life, like you missing so many days of work, you staying in bed, don't want to get out of bed days in a row. It's understandable. Sometimes you want to day in the bed, fine. But when it's reoccurring over and over again, and any of those other symptoms and those effects of those symptoms are reoccurring, and they kind of, in a sense, toxic to where it's hindering you from being progressive or accomplishing whatever your goal is for that day, that month, that whatever, then you might need to seek somebody to talk to. Now, the reason why I said low level at the beginning, right? But the reason why your low level goes to severe or excessive is because you don't have healthy coping strategies in place to offset life stressors every day. So they escalate, they snowball. So 3-4 months later, those mild, I'm gonna use the correct word, that those mild symptoms have accumulated, and now they feel severe.
So what are they, and how do we learn the coping strategies to catch us at the mild stage so that it doesn't escalate? Is that something that is learned, or does that have to be professionally learned, or how do we get those strategies?
Well, either one. If you the type of person where you're a self-initiator, where you can stop and assess yourself, because you do have to stop and assess yourself, right? We do it all the time with work. Oh, at the end of the day, how did I do? Did I do all of my tasks for the day? What I got to do for tomorrow? How well did this go? Oh, how was this conversation with this person? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? We do it all of the time at work, but we don't do it personally. So the key is to stop and assess yourself authentically, truly, realistically, because it's only you, right? You the one doing the assessment. A lot of people scared that other people gonna know what they thinking and feeling. But this is for you. Assess yourself, reflect, self-reflection every day. And with as far as coping strategies, like some things should just be built into your life. And I feel like coping strategies, and I say AKA mostly hobbies, things you enjoy, right? Like you enjoy running, but you stop running because you got to work all the time. You enjoy playing basketball. You stop basketball because you're working all the time. I feel like I don't have time for it. Used to like to work out, used to like to bake, used to like crossword puzzles, used to like read, and used to like just sitting around doing nothing. Those are coping strategies. And I tell people the analogy I use all of the time, you know how in high school we used to do all of these different things, go hang out at the game room, go to the basketball game, talking with our friends or whatever. Those were coping strategies. And as we become adults, we stop because we're like, I don't have time for that stuff. I got kids, I gotta work, I can't go play basketball no more, I can't go swim. And that's what happens.
Well, I think what has happened here is that I have been educated, because I was thinking that coping strategies were more formal, and they appear not. I'm making them too formal, it sounds like. Those things that we do, we may not title them coping strategies, but they are indeed what allow us to get through the day-to-day stressors so that they won't escalate. So I certainly appreciate that education, because again, I was thinking more formal, but yeah, there are some times when I just I'm doing nothing, and it drives my husband cuckoo, because he'll walk in a room sometimes and I don't have the television on, and I'm just sitting in the quiet, and he's like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Nothing. I'm good." But it's, and I guess that's my way of coping. For me, it's my way of disconnecting for a minute,
Right.
and so that, and I can just, after I do that for whatever, however long I need to do that, I'm good. I can
Absolutely.
go on with my day to day. So I love that. So now with your practice, do you deal with any specific demographic or population of people, like women, men, children, families? Or do you deal with all of them? Who are your ideal client for your practice?
Now, when I started, I went full-time private practice when I resigned from the Houston Independent School District in 2018. And they always tell you, niche down. What's your niche? What you specialize in? Well, I didn't have a specialty. I was just seeing everybody. And I thought to myself, I'm gonna let them niche me down. Right? Who gonna come to me? Who's attracted to me? And that's what happened. And so most people I see are mostly women. I do see some men in and out. Most of them are African American. I do see some other uh race ethnicities, and most are dealing with work stress, anxiety, depression. So I'm like, okay, bam, that's my niche right there. So I still don't select. I still, in my private practice, I don't. But that's how the development and the foundation of my women's community, Prosper Under Pressure, came about, is because I started getting a lot of women with work stress and anxiety. And I'm like, see, perfectly. I don't want to niche down my private practice, but I can niche down by having this community of women that I could specifically help them through the stressors and pressures and anxiety that comes with careers and trying to having a career and a family life at the same time. So that's where my Prosper Under Pressure community come from, is from that niche. That's the niche right there.
All right, I love that. So prosper under pressure. So I just love the title itself got me. I was like, wait a minute, she done sped past that. What did she say? And it's a community of women. I'm all for women empowering women. So prosper under pressure, is this all work related pressure or just pressures of the life?
Actually, to help women have a better career, but the life part is connected to the pressures as well, right? Because you do want to balance. You want to have the career that you enjoy, where you get your promotions, vacations, you excelling and thriving at your career, but then you have your family life. And some people, you know, they don't know how to, and people say, oh, there's no such things as balance, but it depends on what your balance is. You know, it's not like 1 and 1. That's not the balance. People got this misconception of balance. But how do I be successful in my career and still manage my household successfully? Because, you know, with women, people feel like, okay, you have kids, that means you can't dedicate your time, or you can't be thriving. You can't thrive in this certain area or conduct this meeting or be the leader of the company because you have kids. So you got to take them to doctor's appointments, miss days, you know. So it's kind of like helping women find that balance where they could be successful and thrive in their career, but at the same time have their other work life and other family life, of all those other elements of our life at the same time, and don't feel like you have to sacrifice any one of those areas because of the pressure and anxiety and overwhelm.
I like that. And is there a website, a Facebook group or something that if someone was interested in learning more about Prosper Under Pressure?
I do have a Facebook group community. It's called Prosper Under Pressure, Skills for Women to Boss Up. And I also have Instagram and Facebook as well.
Awesome.
And I'm starting to ramp the group back up. You know, I kind of got a little busy and started, you know, neglecting it a little bit, but I'm like, no, I can't do this. I got to get my presence back into this group. So y'all can request to join and see what we have going on. We have some exciting things going on, and I'm very passionate about, because that was my life story too, which is why, you know, I was so connected to, because I was a single mother going to school, work, and dealing with kids, and I feel like I was on a hamster wheel. It never stopped. Just kept going and going and going and going. You know, just this never ending story. And so I'm just passionate about helping women to persevere, because, you know, I have some tips and tools for y'all now.
I love that. And I like the fact that it's really a positive group title, because although one is under pressure, we already know that all about this group is to help you prosper.
Help you prosper.
You know, so just by the title alone lets you know what the goal is. The goal is to help you come through, go over, or whatever, you know, with some tools, resources, and assistance, and encouragement, so that you will continue to go through it. So let's talk about, as we wrap up, let's talk about a young Virginia. So what did you want to do as a young girl? Is it what you are doing now? So many times it's something different. So tell me about how you envision yourself on today, and how did you envision yourself back then?
Well, as a kid, I always did play teacher. I had an older sister, but after my grandmother died, because we all stayed in the same household, we called our grandmother Mama. After my grandmother died, my sister started hanging. I guess that was her way of dealing with the death of my grandmother, was that she used to just stay with her friends all the time. So I was always home by myself. And then of course my mama was, you know, entertaining her friends or whatever. So I was a loner. I was always an introvert and by myself. So I used to play teacher by myself. I used to make these little worksheets. I used, you know, back in the, yeah, kind of, well, I don't know if they still do, you know, like they used to have the comic book pages in the newspaper, right? And so I used to cut them up, you know, make them into puzzles, try to match them up, you know, make my worksheets and everything. And so that's what I used to do as a kid by myself. And so, and I love to read. The library, the public library in Beaumont, Texas saved my life. I used to catch the bus, ride the bike. I used to do everything. I used to forge my mama name on the application for my library card. Look, when I had a book that was overdue, I was on there, kid, so I couldn't pay the fine. I forged my mama name again and made another library card.
I love that. I love that. So
that's how I got my degree in English and then became an English teacher.
So and so was it just the schedule of education that was not really working with your desire to do entrepreneurship for mental health? So are you still kind of grounded in teaching?
Well, therapy is pretty much a component of teaching. You still teaching, right? But just on a different capacity, different topics, you know, and things like that. Now, the school district I mean, I was already, and I love kids a little bit, but those kids would burn you out, right? I was counseling anyway. You can't teach. Well, I was always working in low socioeconomic schools. So you couldn't teach. You were so busy counseling, trying to get kids in the classroom, trying to get them to settle down. They was crying, hungry, had to go to nurse, missing days, had to make her work. So school work. So you was always counseling anyway. You just always trying to nurture and help people out, even the kids when you're a teacher. So I was still doing it already. It just went to another level.
I like that. Now, are you published? Do you have any books or publications out there that one could read up on?
I do. I'm working. Well, actually, I'm in the acts of publishing my fourth book, which really aligns with my story about my mom as a kid dealing with that trauma of her mental health issue as a kid. And it's my fourth book. It's called Set Apart: The Journey to Find Hope Through Shame, Loneliness, and Death. And so that book kind of highlights, like I said, my story of how I had to navigate my mom's mental health issues that I really didn't know about as a kid until now as an adult, reflecting on that. I'm like, that's what I was going through. And people would classify that as trauma. As a kid, I didn't see it as trauma. But now that I know, it was traumatic having to deal with my mom and her mental health issues and the things that she was going through and our lifestyle and everything. So that's in my book. And I got a little twist to it. I've been struggling with publishing the whole book, and God been working with me. It was titled something else. And I'm like, God, I need to get this book published. And he said, I need you to change the name of that book. And I changed it to Set Apart. It was called, what was it called? Dealing with the mental health crisis that wasn't yours, something like that. And I couldn't get it together. And so I changed the name of the book because I asked God to help me. And he told me to change the name of the book to be more in reverence to him, right? Because he saved me, because you got to get the book for the highlights. But the thing that I want to highlight is that I'm doing this book totally different. I have never seen anybody do a book like this, and God instilled this in me because I've been struggling with getting the whole book published. It's written. I've just been having a problem with publishing the whole book because I'm still, this is probably my first time hearing the story. And so I'm still, trying to navigate it and get through it myself. This is my healing as well. But what I'm doing I'm calling it an impact chapter drip. I'm releasing a chapter at a time.
Oh, that is different. So how are you really? Well, then what methodology? Where are you releasing it a chapter at a time?
So either this week or next week, my first chapter gonna drip. I'm calling it chapter drips. I'm like you would publicize any other book, right? But I'm doing it a chapter at a time, probably at $1.99 each chapter, and just dripping it out. Because the thing about it too is, like, everybody don't like the whole book, so they won't buy the whole book. And so I want to just try this out of dripping a chapter, because you know what, how they do albums, they drip album records, they drip a record at a time, don't they? And God, this came straight from God, I'm telling you. He said, I told him I'm having a problem with this book. I can't get it together. He said, release a chapter at a time. And I say, that's how they do with albums. They release a song at a time till you have the whole album.
I like that. Now, I would caution you, Virginia. I've never heard of that. So I think you might want to look into getting that trademark before somebody hear you say it enough times, they run and get it trademarked, because I love that. A chapter drip, girl, you better get it.
Okay, I better do it before this one. Well, you know what too, I thought about that, but you know how they say, once you kind of like put your intellectual property out there, it's kind of like, your intellectual property, but I know what you're saying. But
yeah, well, as you're getting ready to put it out there, you're gonna say it, because naturally that's what you're doing. That's your process. People gonna hear that, and just like me, their ears are gonna start like, oh my God, I love that. And then they're going to go up on the website and see if you have it trademarked, and then they'll try to trademark it before you. That's just the world that we live in.
I know.
So you can actually start the process with less than $200, you can start the process. And then if you want to talk to a lawyer later, you can. But I will go ahead and get that chapter dripped.
Okay, if y'all watching this, y'all don't try to beat me to
That's right.
trademarking my thing, because she my witness. I'm
That's
the
right.
original.
Get it locked down, because because I just know how this world is nowadays, and I just
I know.
so let's as we're closing, I want you to make sure that you let everybody know where they can find you on all of your social media, all of your websites. How can they stay in contact with you so that they can be privy to what you're doing in this space called life?
Okay, so I got like 3 big things going on in my life. So me at Virginia Dale Manning on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and that's probably where you'll see my chapter drip at. And then my business at Gem Man Consulting, once again on social media as well as a website, is www.gemmanconsulting.com. And then the Prosper Under Pressure, of course, is on social media, Instagram and Facebook. But then you also have the Facebook group where all of the stuff popping at.
Awesome. So this has been a wonderful, wonderful episode. Like I told you, we have some awesome talent here in the Sister Leaders community, and it is truly my pleasure to be able to highlight the talent that we have here. And if you have not um, um, signed up for the Sister Leaders Conference, it's coming up October 4th and 5th. I encourage you to do so. Go to the website, sisterleadersconference.com. We are going to be live and live stream virtually on October 4th and 5th from the Rivers Casino in Portsmouth, Virginia. And so we are going to descend on Portsmouth, Virginia, and bring all of the powerful speakers and all of the participants of the Sister Leaders community who are part of the conference to Portsmouth, Virginia, so that we can network, so that we can share information, so that we can socialize and really get to know one another beyond those surface relationships that sometimes happen in the marketplace or in the workplace. And so we're going to be eating, we're going to be learning, we're going to be getting together for business collaborations. And so I am excited. And so until the next episode of the Sister Leaders Podcast, I bid you goodbye. Bye.